Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Awakening Potential Podcast, a platform dedicated to uncovering the extraordinary within the ordinary. Join us on a journey of self-discovery, personal growth, and inspiring transformation as we dive deep into the stories and experiences of everyday individuals who have turned their lives into remarkable tales of achievement. Our mission is to ignite the potential and empower you to reach new heights in your own life. Through powerful narratives and changing experiences, profound insights, we aim to spark the fire of inspiration within our listeners, motivating them to take positive action and awaken their inner hero. Today, I'm joined by Richard Kaye, an old-time friend of mine who we go way back. Richard, I'm really excited to have you here. And he's a true luminary in the world of being the top talent agency to get yourself featured in the media. We all want to get seen, and so many people I know are complaining they're not heard or seen. This is a great opportunity for those who do. So he'd like to share some invaluable wisdom in life-changing moments. So get ready to listen to your potential as we embark on this enlightening conversation. Welcome, Richard. I'm so happy to have you here, and thank you for sharing your valuable time to be here.
It's a privilege to be here, Karen, and reconnect after so many years, well over a decade. I love what you're doing now, Solutions. I love your logo. And it's the first time I've heard it, the extraordinary in the ordinary. That's really good. So, and we're all extraordinary, only some of us forget.
Yeah,
Forget it.
absolutely. But often we forget about that. The conversations and the beliefs that we tell ourselves hold us back so often. And it's like the thought of being extraordinary is like so far out there. So I'm curious, on your journey and through your experiences, Richard, what was it that was that turning point that awakened your potential?
Boy, do we have about 12 hours?
Well,
Karen,
you just have to come back.
there have been myriad turning points. I mean, just over and over and over again. And one of the biggest ones, I had a very successful practice in San Diego, chiropractic practice.
Yeah.
And I'm going to mold what I do now into how that happened.
Beautiful.
I graduated from chiropractic college in New York, got my MGB. Some of you may remember what that was, little four-cylinder sports car.
Yeah, I had
Drove
one
from,
too.
did you?
I did. I loved it. And
Wow.
a side note, because I lived in New York too, no coincidences. And every time I parked the car, I would back up. Somebody would hit one of those lenses, and they were $125 to replace those lenses back in the day.
Wow.
And I was at least once a month, I was replacing one of those lenses.
Oh, geez. Well, that's a wonderful, most people don't know what an MGB was.
Oh my God. Yes.
So anyway, drove from New York to San Diego to start a chiropractic practice.
Uh,
Ladies and gentlemen, there were 300 chiropractors practicing.
uh,
How do you start or grow any business in that kind of crowded space? Well, I learned about publicity and getting featured in media very quickly. I got myself invited to be a guest on a morning television talk show, turned that into being invited back every month for a little over a year, plus or minus a year. Then I got an article in the San Diego Tribune. Then I got an article in the Los Angeles Times. Now, the pivot point here, and this is leading up to one of my pivot points in life, but the pivot point in growing my practice, Karen, is one day I get a phone call from a producer from the ABC News in San Diego. And ladies and gentlemen, this is what you want to hear. Who are you? We're hearing your name. We're seeing you all around. Well, now I got a 6:30 news segment. Then I got a very similar phone call from the producer at PBS. Who are you? We've heard your name. Well, now I got a PBS segment about me. Now, I was no longer another one of 300 chiropractors. I was at the top of the crowd way back then. And I'll give you an idea, Karen. I was handing practice members VHS tapes. So it wasn't yesterday I was doing this. And that's a little bit about what we'll talk about, how to get featured in the media. Now, that led to several years later, actually, it was only a few after the PBS thing. I was meditating and I heard, shut your practice and work with entrepreneurs. Now, you will understand the literal message was work with CEO Space. Ladies and gentlemen, that was an organization through which Karen and I met.
Mhm.
At the time, it was the largest business growth conference on the planet.
Yeah,
Chicken Soup got started there. Lisa Nichols, we knew Lisa before she was Lisa.
exactly.
Um, and so the message was shut your practice and work with CEO Space, work with entrepreneurs. Karen, literally, there was nobody there.
Yeah.
3 weeks later, I shut my practice. I live in Taos, New Mexico now. I already owned 80 acres,
Well,
drove out, took some time off and serving entrepreneurs for over 25 years. That's probably one of the major business pivot points in my life. And
mhm,
ladies and gentlemen, if you're following Karen, you're in this soulful place. Listen when you get those kinds of downloads or transmissions, whatever you want to call them.
yeah,
That's your
absolutely.
soul. That's your higher self
Mhm,
speaking to you.
mhm,
Pay attention. So,
exactly.
so that was a pretty big moment. Okay?
I guess so. And how amazing, and how, how far we've both come from those days, and how far the people we met in CO Space have come. What are some of the challenges that, I mean, obviously it's never a clear path. It's not just like, okay, here I'm going down there. The road always has some twisty, windy bumps in the road. What were some of those challenges that you faced, and how did you overcome them?
Coming out to a place where I knew no one.
Hmm.
Well, actually, that's not true. I did know one person. Uh, Years before, I had invited someone who came to CEO Space. And one day he said, "Hey, why don't you come out and visit me?" Where did he live? Taos. So, I mean, there's a lot of moving parts in between. Came out, fell in love, bought 80 acres on the spot, and
Well,
said, "Someday we're going to move here." When you come across a roadblock or an objection, ladies and gentlemen,
mhm,
take a look at it. What is it, real or is it artificial?
yes,
Most of us have this inner talk that I'm not good enough.
mhm,
Decades ago, there were a bunch of books, if I'm so popular or famous, why don't I feel that way?
mhm,
Own who you are. That's the gift you bring to the world. And for God's sake, stop comparing yourself to somebody else. We all do that.
exactly.
We don't know their mission, their path, their challenges.
Mhm,
I met my wife on a networking event, which was interesting. She was living in the UK, and this is a little bit about publicity and listening to your inner voice and your passion. I was moderating a breakout room, and Karen, I say this to you, ladies and gentlemen, because you follow Karen, you will understand this. She said she heard me say I had a soul to soul conversation with my son.
mm,
She said, I got to meet this guy. Well, the short
mhm,
story is a couple of months later, she moved back to this country and moved in. She's from San Francisco, but was living in Cotswold in the UK. She had spent over $200,000 trying to get her books, her messages out to the world. She writes fairy tales.
mm,
These stories are designed so kids fall in love with themselves. We're all aware of kids. If you love yourself, you don't go shoot up schools. You don't go kill people. You don't take an AR-16 or whatever it is and
mhm,
kill people. A very powerful message. And she recognized, as we all do on some level, that we were mirrors or are mirrors.
mm, mm,
Now, $200,000, couple of publishers, very few books sold. She is now a number one best-selling author. This is what getting featured in the media does, ladies and gentlemen.
exactly.
She's producing a television show. She was invited to produce a television show. As a matter of fact, a couple of minutes ago, before we got on, she went over here to the University of New Mexico to talk to the film department to get some of the students to be producers or whatever they're going to do to help her produce the television show. It's already live. It's already out there.
Oh, sweet.
But now she's working with students to get them higher and higher.
Love it.
So
Love it.
what are challenges? I mean, we were continents apart. You know, I had
Yeah.
a 30-year thriving practice featured on PBS and the news and the media. What do you perceive as challenges? You can either stop and say, I can't go any further, or keep going. Keep going. The end
Absolutely.
result is worth it.
Absolutely. Keep on keeping. For sure. For sure. Go ahead. Give her a little plug. What's her name?
Oh, her name is Angela Lee, and you can find her website, AngelaLegh.com. AngelaLegh.com.
Beautiful.
And you see the award she's won.
Love it.
I have book number 4 I'm editing for final. 3 of the books are already out. And it's such a joy, such a joy. As a matter of fact, we're going to a black tie gala at the end of next month, and we'll be seated with Sharon Lecter. Was Sharon in CEO Space when you were
She
there?
was. I met her
Yeah.
in CEO, and I also met her at the Secret Knock.
Yes, it's Secret Knock also.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she actually endorsed one of my books, and we'll be dining with Mark Victor Hansen and his wife.
Awesome.
These
Love
are
it.
the connections that, and it's fun going to black tie. You know, we live in Taos, New Mexico, where Angela says, I can't wear high heels here. You know, it's a mountain town, it's 5,000 people. We go to
Yeah.
black tie. Yeah. And ladies and gentlemen, you're going to get my contact information. If you want to get into the media, let's talk. We can help you do that.
Absolutely. And just as a perfect segue into saying, all of your contact information will be in the show notes. So make sure you stop by and look it up. It's going to be aired on Spotify, the audio on iHeartRadio, YouTube. So it's going to be there. The video itself will be on YouTube. So um, we're just spreading the word, right? We're just getting out there spreading the word. And I just love what you're up to right now and who you've become since I've met you.
Me too.
I know it's exciting. That's why I like the ordinary to the extraordinary, because the excitement comes when we step into the greater version of ourselves, I should say. And we don't always see that because we're so stuck in like, oh my God, I'm not good enough. I can't hear it. I can't see it. All of that. But here's living proof. Like this show is really given living proof that anything is possible when we put our minds to it. I'm curious, Richard, one of the things over the years, you've known me since 2009, 2007, I started Tranquil Solutions. And one of the things that I always like asking people is, what did you play with, or what inspired you, or what were you passionate about as a child? And does it correlate to any of what you're doing today?
Not at all. My
Okay.
first career this lifetime was electronics engineer.
Well, okay.
And I attribute that training to some of my specificity in designing things. I build things, I build furniture, I play because of the engineering.
Mhm.
Then, and I did not graduate that program. I'd shifted, got a degree in business management from Long Island University, the Newark University system.
Uh-huh.
And then it was another shift. Someone introduced me. Actually, it was a woman who is now deceased, my first wife, introduced me to chiropractic. And I said, what's that?
Mm,
Well, I went, graduated with honors, and it's been a progression as all of us. Karen, you've grown, I've grown. Ladies and gentlemen, and I mentioned it before, if you're judging yourself compared to others, you're screwed. There's
exactly.
always someone bigger, better, wealthier, prettier, whatever.
Yeah,
You're put on this planet to be who you are and be the best you can ever be.
absolutely.
Give your gifts to the world. Don't give someone else's gifts.
Right.
And Karen, through her work, helps people just like you find that soul connection.
Mm,
It's organic. It's there. And when I had a job, I'm unemployable now. I mean, I haven't had a job in God knows how many decades. You know, people judge us
Yes,
either to elevate us and give us a raise or fire us. Step out of judgment. It sucks and it doesn't serve anything.
exactly.
And here's what's important with that. One of my favorite quotes these days is the Talmud tells us we don't see the world as it is, we see it as we are.
Or exactly.
This is one of the teachings through Angela's books. No, kids are not born prejudiced. They're not born right or left or liberal or conservative. Where do they get it from? Their parents, the people they hang around with.
Exactly.
And we have a look, we just had the Super Bowl. Look at all the judgment that was out there about Taylor Swift and Kelsey
Right.
and the teams. What if you just, in that case, accepted it all as enjoyment? It's a freaking football game. Enjoy it.
Right.
Let go of the judgment and
Absolutely.
work with Karen. If you have stress, struggles with that,
Thank you.
she'll help you achieve your higher self.
Mm, thank you, Richard. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that a lot because I'm really passionate about what I do. Needless to say, I keep doing it. Keep coming
Yes,
back for more.
yes.
I keep showing up. I think that for me, attitude is everything. And through all the challenges and struggles, and when I met you, I was going through some huge ones, and I was totally victim back in those days. And I just kept showing up and kept stepping out of it and stepping out of
Yes.
it and stepping out of it. And by stepping out of it, I increased my self-worth, I increased my self-esteem, the judgment went away, and now I'm just playing in life and I'm loving life. Is it easy? Heck no, man. I had the year from heck
Hmm.
last year. Yeah, I was doing what I enjoyed doing. I don't know if you know this, Richard, but I was decided to go on a retreat after COVID. And one of the things I love doing is playing with horses on the beach, riding horses on the beach. And I
Hmm.
went flying off the horse and broke my femur, snapped my femur on my left leg,
Whoa.
fractured my pelvis and dislocated my back. And against all odds, they said, "Oh, your chances of moving are slim, slim. It's going to be a long time recovering." And their diagnosis didn't have to be my prognosis. And I knew my body was going to heal because the
Hold
body
on.
is right.
I invite you to say that again. And ladies and gentlemen, that is a brilliant statement. It's the first time I've heard it, and I'd like you to repeat it so everyone gets that. Their diagnosis.
Doesn't have to be my prognosis or your prognosis.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
get to choose. The mind is a very, very powerful tool. And it was my attitude that really kept me grounded. And beyond the pain and everything else, I knew there was a lesson in there. And there's always a lesson in everything. And my question to you, Richard, is what is your greatest lesson in life you've learned so far? And I know there's a gazillion of them, but one that just jumps out like that for you.
Accept what is and ignore what isn't.
Exactly.
We create stories about stuff.
Yeah.
And building on your lesson, and I really love that their diagnosis. And by the way, when I used to practice and I'd have patient orientation talks, I would tell people that in Latin, the word die means two.
Right.
A is a negation of,
Mhm.
gnosis is knowledge. So when someone renders a diagnosis, it really means now the two of us don't know what you've got.
Mhm.
Now, the origin is not from Latin, but it's a fun play on words.
Exactly.
Own your power and own it in a place or through a place of love, not from arrogance
Mhm.
and ego and significance, and show up and serve people. I
Absolutely.
learned that coming from an engineering where it was, we're bidding on this contract and we have to have it, to getting into management, which
Mhm.
I never practiced management per se, as my degree is in,
Mhm.
and then stepping into being in service as a chiropractor and serving humanity. So,
Mhm.
ladies and gentlemen, that's what you're here for. It's not about you.
Yes.
And when we forget, I mean, that's when life really sucks. And people know it when you're all about yourself. And we all know those kinds of people. Uh, a lady that I know from many years ago, if we were talking about something, she would figure out how to make it the story about her. And I said, you can't do that.
Mhm.
She still does that. And that was like 8, 10 years ago.
Mhm.
Be in service to people, listen. And I learned that starting in my chiropractic practice. And I take that through into my entrepreneurial development, listening to people. And
Uh-huh.
if any of you ever choose to reach out to me, and I'll give you that information in a moment, and I guarantee I asked this to Karen when we met at CEO Space, the operative question is, how may I serve you?
Exactly.
And quite frankly, before we went live on this, I asked Karen, how may I serve you and your tribe?
Yeah, exactly.
That is the way to live life,
Yeah.
not what can you do for me? That'll show up.
Mhm.
Just you show up for others. It works, especially if you're in a relationship.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah,
really
absolutely.
important.
I love that. What a great point to, I like to call myself a servant leader. And I too ask that question all the time, like, how might I serve? And people will look at me like, excuse me, because they're not used to that. But what if we stepped into, imagine a world, what the world would look like if we all stepped into that consciousness. I just
It,
love the feel of that.
it may have been Esther Hicks or somebody else said, if everyone else fell in love with themselves,
Yeah,
instant peace would break out on this planet.
absolutely.
So yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah. And part of what Tranquil Solutions is all about is bringing it back to love. Absolutely.
yeah. No one overkills. No one kills over anything except because they've been trained to or forced to if you're in the military and whatever
Exactly.
side. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So what got you into what you're doing now, with the talent agency? And give us a little more information, a little backstory to that. And then please do share your information and how you serve in that
Well,
capacity.
so ladies and gentlemen, Karen knows the founder of this organization, CEO Space, graduated about 4 years ago. Uh,
Mhm.
right at the beginning of COVID, he had a heart attack and he was gone.
Yeah.
And it was a global organization and it kind of fell apart. His wife is doing the best she can to resurrect something. It's just she has a whole different perspective, as we all do.
Right.
Shortly after that, I got a phone call from a fellow named David Fagan, and he asked me, what are you doing with the rest of your life? I said, excuse me? I said, let me turn my computer off and go into the living room and have a conversation. He flew my wife and me out. Again, we live in Taos in New Mexico. No one knows where it is, but Taos, New Mexico, flew us out to Arizona, said, let's work together.
Mhm.
David, many of you have probably heard of guerrilla marketing, J. Conrad Levinson's organization. They
Mhm.
sold 23 million books in 62 language. David was CEO of guerrilla marketing.
Oh,
And with my background in business growth and business development and the history, as I shared about how I grew to a very successful practice, we have fun. It's an organization that gets you featured in the media. As a matter of fact, we have a relatively new program. It's called featurememore.com, all one word, feature me more. We will guarantee what would happen to Karen, what would happen to you in your business if you had articles by or about you in big city newspapers?
that would
What
be
what what
huge.
yeah.
It would be huge.
See,
Yeah.
and I know that from my history, the San Diego Tribune, Los Angeles Times, been there, done that.
Yeah.
And I've been in media, lots of media since then. So this featurememore.com will give you a wealth of information. And here's what we guarantee. If we don't get you a feature in the first 30 days, you get your money back.
Mm.
How can we guarantee it? By the way, we also do some amazing things. We have a contract. If you're a really high-end player, we have a contract with Bloomberg where we are now producing docu-series. We
Oh,
get people interviewed at the NASDAQ studio in New York, which is broadcast on myriad stations. We
yeah.
put people on stages.
Mm.
If you have a book, even if you've already written it, we guarantee #1 best-selling status, but not just in one category, in multiple categories.
Yeah. Beautiful.
How can we possibly do that? Now, many people accomplish that with compilation books. That's easy.
Mm.
You got 42 authors, everyone posts it, and #1 book, and it's great. My wife's first book was a compilation book. It's not that she didn't know any better. She was new into this space.
Right.
We take you with your message and your story through I'll give you another example. David and I were invited to teach at another conference in Denver. He flew up there. And we had one of our clients with us, Melissa Asario, and very interesting woman, seriously abused as a child, total non-memory, total blackout on it. Did plant medicine, ayahuasca in this case, had memory of all the crap that she was subject to.
Mm.
We helped her write a book. We helped ghostwrite, if you need that, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, nice.
We had Melissa have 15 minutes on stage. Very quickly, 300 books were sold.
Mm.
That's pretty cool. Now, if your name's Tom Clancy, that's a nanosecond in sales.
Right.
For you and me, that's pretty good.
That's very good.
So now
Absolutely.
she's out teaching and helping people recover their memories. So
Wow.
we get you on stages, we get you on magazines, we feature you, we get you in the newspapers. Feature me now. And if you would like to have a conversation, talk about publicity.com. That takes you right to my calendar. Talk about publicity.com. And as long as we're on this roll, Karen, I want to leave your guests with a gift. When you are applying for a live stage or a webinar or a podcast, guess what? People are inundated. I wouldn't even guess how many people applied to be on this show with Karen. Well, why do they want to choose you? You must present yourself. You must stand out from a crowd. And that's a whole different conversation to be had. But I'm going to give you a gift. I created something called the top 10 reasons people listen to Dr. Richard Kaye. And it's a one sheet, 8.5 by 11. And then I said, I'm going to turn this into a video. I'm going to give you a template for that in a moment. And why is that important? You want to say, I'm the real deal. I've got stuff. I've been awarded. I've been presented. I'm this. This is not ego. This is fact. This is not spewing out how wonderful you are. It's saying, I've got all these accolades. And you can get that by going to my website, richardkaye.com, richardkaye.com/top 10 reasons. richardkaye.com/top 10 reasons. Use it as a template. Some of you may say, well, I'm just starting out. I only have 5 things. I'll do 5 things. Why did I do 10? I got 20, almost 30 years in this space. I could have put 110.
Right.
And some of you may remember David Letterman. He popularized the top 10. People would tune in to just for the top 10. So you got a bunch of ways to get in touch with me. And please download that and use it. It'll help you get selected for, again, podcasts, live stages, webinars, television, radio. That's a whole different conversation. We get you on those things too.
Beautiful. Richard, it's been wonderful. Before we part, what is the one thing, the pearl of wisdom that you would like to drop here today before we depart?
Allow other people to be who they're put on this planet to be without your judgment. You don't know their journey.
Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful. It's been such an honor and a privilege, Richard. It's so great connecting again. And I love who you've become and what you're doing and what your wife is doing. And the stand you are for your wife is just amazing, especially in today's world. It's just so awesome to hear. So thank you for being that. And I'd like to leave the audience with a lesson that you always have a choice to be extraordinary. Going from the ordinary, you choose extraordinarily.